Welcome to the ultimate guide to seduction and the art of working with human psychology. What you're about to discover has been practiced by history's most compelling figures, from Cleopatra to Casanova, from powerful leaders to master courtesans. Seduction is not a trick, nor is it force. It is influence at its most intimate form, the power to make someone want to step closer, to follow your lead, and to see themselves differently because of you. It's the ability to enter another person's mind and stay there, and to turn an encounter into a moment they replay long after you've gone. The principles in this video have been tested for centuries by those who understood human nature better than anyone else. What made them unforgettable wasn't a single move or clever line. It was the way they carried themselves, the way they could shift the atmosphere of a room simply by being in it. Today you'll learn how to build this kind of influence step by step, how to choose the right person, how to enter their world without resistance, and how to deepen their interest until they can't imagine turning away. It all begins before a word is spoken and before a move is made, in the quiet moment where you choose your target and set the game in motion. To draw someone in, you must first see them clearly, not just the version they present to the world, but the quiet truths they keep to themselves, their desires, their doubts, the spaces in their life where something feels missing. These are the openings where connection can take root. The most successful seductions don't feel like they're happening at all. They unfold naturally, as if both people are discovering something together. This is why the first step is never action, it's observation. You watch, you listen, you learn, until you know not only who they are, but how they see themselves. The true seducer moves with patience and intention. They never rush in. They position themselves like a piece on a chessboard, close enough to matter, far enough to avoid being obvious. Every word, every glance, every choice is deliberate. And once you've chosen your target and placed yourself within reach, the game begins in earnest, with the subtle, careful work of drawing them toward you without them even realizing it's happening. Seduction begins quietly. It's not about grand declarations or dramatic gestures, but about slipping into someone's world with purpose and precision. Before you make your presence known, you study them. You watch the patterns of their days, the tone of their voice, the way they react when certain topics arise. Somewhere in their life, there will be a space, an emptiness, however small, and that is where you begin. Not everyone will respond to you. Some people are too content, their lives too fortified to let anyone in. These are not your targets. The ones worth your energy are those who feel something missing, even if they can't name it. They might carry a quiet restlessness, a loneliness disguised by routine, or an ambition they've buried under practicality. They'll also see something in you that stands apart from the familiar faces in their everyday life, something they can't easily place but find hard to ignore. And you, in turn, must feel something real toward them. Without genuine interest, your presence risks feeling hollow. When you finally enter their orbit, resist the urge to be direct. Moving too fast hardens their defenses before you've even begun. Instead, approach at an angle. Let your connection begin in the background, through shared circles, casual exchanges, and unexpected encounters that seem almost accidental. At first, be pleasant but not eager, even seem distracted. In this way, you give them time to feel at ease in your presence and lowering their guard without realizing it. Once they're comfortable with you, the next step is to become intriguing enough that they start looking for you. Predictability is the death of fascination. Show them you are a collection of contrasts, confident yet humble, playful yet thoughtful, warm yet elusive. These contradictions will leave them wondering who you really are, replaying your moments together in their mind, trying to pin down what they can't quite define. As this curiosity grows, let them see, subtly, that you are valued by others. People instinctively want what others already desire. A compliment from someone else, a lingering glance from across the room, a story about a friend who admires you. These things plant seeds. Without ever saying it outright, you show that your attention is something to be earned. From there, you begin to shift the ground under their feet. Through conversation and shared moments, you introduce ideas that make them reflect on their life in a new way. Not with criticism or direct suggestion, but with gentle nudges that open the door to questions they hadn't considered before. When they begin to feel that stirring, that mix of curiosity, restlessness, and the faint suspicion that you might hold the key to something missing. You've set the stage. The first move is complete. They are no longer entirely in the world they knew before you arrived. They are looking at it and at you with new eyes. What happens next is not to rush them forward, but to draw them in further, step by step, until they can no longer remember when they began following your lead. Once you have their attention, the game shifts. The early spark was about getting them to notice you, to see you as something worth wondering about. Now your task is to deepen that interest, while quietly loosening their ability to see the situation with complete clarity. This isn't about deception. It's about guiding them into an experience where emotion outruns reason. That balance is delicate. Push too hard, and you awaken suspicion. Hold back too much, and the attraction loses momentum. The key is to never let them feel they can fully predict you. When someone believes they've figured you out, the mystery evaporates and their curiosity fades. Keep them leaning forward, waiting to see what you'll do next. Change plans unexpectedly, not to frustrate them, but to bring something better, more exciting, into play. Reveal an unexpected skill. Share a story they would never have guessed about you, or take them somewhere they wouldn't have imagined visiting. These surprises must feel natural, as if they simply happened, not as if you engineered them. While you keep their world shifting, you also learn to speak in a way that bypasses the noise in their mind. Most people are wrapped in their own thoughts, their own insecurities, their own endless internal chatter. When you speak directly to those insecurities, when you echo their dreams and soothe their private fears, they hear you differently. Study them closely enough and you'll know the words that will hit like a warm current, making them feel understood in a way they rarely experience. Tell them things they didn't know they needed to hear. Notice what others overlook. Offer reassurance where they secretly crave it. The gestures that hold the most power aren't always grand. A large display of affection can seem forced or raise the question of why you're trying so hard. Instead, show that you're paying attention in smaller, more specific ways. The book they mentioned once and never thought you'd remember, a song you send because it reminded you of them, a subtle change in your appearance that matches a taste they once confessed. These details work quietly, building a sense of connection that feels deeply personal. But connection thrives on space as much as it does on closeness. If you're always present, you become a constant, something expected, and the charge between you dulls. Disappear for a moment. Let absence become part of your presence. When they think of you, let it be tied to a place, a feeling, or a fleeting image that carries more beauty than reality ever could. You are not just someone they see, you are a mood that lingers when you're gone. To keep their guard down, show flashes of vulnerability. Let them feel stronger, more capable in certain moments. This is not weakness, it's a way to make your calculated moves seem spontaneous. The small tremor in your voice, the moment you let them comfort you, the rare instance when you admit uncertainty. These moments awaken their protective instincts, and once someone feels protective, they are already invested. Little by little, their thoughts blur. You feed them a mix of reality and possibility until they can't quite tell where one ends and the other begins. You awaken dormant dreams, hint that you might be the path to fulfilling them, and let them follow that thread without forcing it. When their mind begins to drift into that dreamlike state, you guide them away from anything or anyone that might break the spell. Gradually, their world shifts so that more and more of it is spent in your presence or in the echo of it. Familiar friends fade into the background, routines lose their grip, and the places they used to feel at home now seem less alive without you there. It's not isolation in the physical sense, it's an emotional migration, a slow drift away from the world they knew toward the one you've been quietly building. And once they are in that world, the stakes rise. They are invested, intrigued, and unsteady. The moment has come to decide whether you will lead them to the very edge, and if you do, how far you're willing to go to see them cross it. By now, they are no longer on steady ground. You've pulled them into your orbit, stirred their emotions, and loosened their grip on the familiar. They are fascinated, invested, and at times unsure of exactly what's happening, which is exactly where you want them. This is the turning point, the place where the seduction either deepens into complete surrender or slips away entirely. Here, hesitation is your enemy. You cannot linger in half measures. This phase demands boldness. Sometimes all it takes to dissolve the last of their resistance is one decisive act that proves your devotion beyond doubt. Words can be dismissed, but actions, especially ones that cost you something, are harder to ignore. It might be a risk you take on their behalf, a sacrifice you make without being asked, or a moment where you place them above your own comfort and safety. It doesn't have to be reckless, but it must be unmistakable. In that instant, they see that you are willing to go further for them than anyone else has dared. Once you have their trust at this level, you can awaken emotions that run deeper than simple attraction. Everyone carries within them a longing for safety, for unconditional acceptance, for the simplicity of being cared for without judgment. Position yourself so that you satisfy this need even as you remain their equal or guide. Let them feel like the one being protected, seen, and understood at a level they've never known. They won't realize it, but these old emotional patterns make their connection to you far harder to break. At the same time, there is power in the forbidden. Every person has private boundaries they believe they'll never cross, whether shaped by society, relationships, or their own self-image. If you can make them feel safe while gently leading them past those lines, the bond becomes charged with something deeper. It's not about pushing them into danger or shame, but about letting them experience the thrill of stepping into territory they've secretly wanted to explore. That shared complicity, the sense of "we did this together," creates a connection that lingers long after the moment has passed. But seduction that focuses only on the physical can trigger insecurity or doubt. To elevate the experience, frame it as something larger. Speak of your connection in spiritual or artistic terms. Share moments that feel transcendent, a conversation that drifts into the meaning of life, a night spent lost in music or art, an exploration of ideas that lift them out of ordinary reality. When the physical finally happens, it will feel like the natural expression of something far greater and far rarer than simple desire. Still, perfection dulls over time. Without contrast, even the sweetest moments lose their taste. You must introduce uncertainty, moments of tension that sharpen their need for you. Let them feel a flicker of guilt, a spike of jealousy, or the sting of thinking they might lose you. Disappear for a short while, grow distant without explanation, or withdraw your warmth just long enough for them to miss it. When you return, the relief they feel will make them hold on tighter than before. This is the rhythm of the precipice. Safety and risk, closeness and distance, pleasure laced with just enough pain to keep the experience alive. By the time they realize how far they've come, they're standing at the edge with you, unable to remember when they stopped walking on their own and started following your lead. From here, the next move will decide everything. Victory is close, but even in this moment of near completion, you must play it with care. The art lies in knowing when to let them reach for you and when to pull them the final step across the threshold. Standing at the edge, they are yours in every way that matters, emotionally invested, mentally engaged, and physically drawn to you. But this is the most fragile moment of all. If you press too hard, the spell can break. If you ease off too much, the tension you've built will fade. The path forward is a delicate reversal. You must shift from pursuit to being pursued. They've grown accustomed to you leading, to the constant flow of energy coming from your side. Now you step back. Subtly, without explanation, you give them space. You let moments pass without reaching out. You hint in the smallest ways that your attention might be drifting elsewhere, not to make them feel discarded, but to awaken the fear of losing you. That fear becomes urgency. Soon they're leaning forward, wondering how to draw you close again. And when their desire starts to take on a life of its own, you bring in a new layer, the physical lure. This is not about overt advances. It's about letting your presence do the work. Hold their gaze a second too long. Let your voice drop in tone, your touch linger slightly past what's ordinary. Maintain a relaxed, unthreatening air, but allow an undercurrent of heat to run beneath it. You're not asking for anything, you're simply creating a space they can't help but want to step into. Then there comes the moment when everything hangs in the balance. They want you, but they haven't said it outright. Perhaps they haven't even admitted it fully to themselves. This is when you abandon subtlety. You make the bold move, the one that sweeps away the last of their hesitation. It might be the kiss they weren't expecting, the words they didn't dare to imagine you'd say, or the act that turns possibility into certainty. You don't give them room to overthink, you let the moment carry you both past the point of return. Victory, however, is not the end. In fact, it's often the most dangerous point in the entire journey. Once the high of seduction peaks, emotions can swing sharply downward toward doubt, restlessness, or mistrust. If your goal was only conquest, then part quickly and cleanly. But if you want to keep them, the real work begins here. Familiarity is the enemy. Never let them feel they've completely mapped you out. Disappear just long enough to be missed. Introduce new challenges, new sparks of uncertainty, small conflicts that make your warmth feel precious again when it returns. The dance doesn't stop, it changes rhythm. You seduce again and again, each time in a slightly different way, so they never stop feeling the pull. The truth is, the greatest seductions aren't defined by the moment of victory. They are measured by how long the spell lasts afterward, how deeply it changes the person caught in it, and how unforgettable the experience remains, long after the moment itself has passed. For all the skill and strategy seduction requires, it can be undone in an instant. One wrong habit, one repeated flaw, can collapse everything you've built. To keep your power, you must understand not only what draws people in, but what pushes them away. These are the traits of the anti-seducer, the very things you must avoid at all costs. The anti-seducer is not mysterious, they are transparent in the worst way. They have no sense of the other person's perspective, no feel for the unspoken currents between two people. Everything they do is centered on themselves. They talk too much, listen too little, and drain the energy from a conversation by turning it into a stage for their own problems. Their need for validation is constant, and it shows. They ask for reassurance too often, cling too tightly, and smother the very freedom that allows attraction to grow. Instead of making others feel more alive, they leave them feeling exhausted, like being around them is a burden rather than a privilege. Sometimes the anti-seducer hides behind overcompensation. They overwhelm with attention, thinking more is better, when in reality it signals desperation. They fail to notice when someone is pulling away, or worse, they notice but react with accusation or panic instead of grace. If any trace of these habits exists in you, remove them ruthlessly. Self-awareness is your shield. Learn to step outside your own emotions long enough to see how your presence affects the other person. This isn't about self-denial, it's about removing the noise that kills desire. Just as you avoid becoming an anti-seducer yourself, you must also be able to spot them in others. These are the people who will drain your energy and distract you from your own growth. They are not opponents worth engaging. Distance yourself quickly, their negativity is contagious. The truth is, seduction is a delicate ecosystem. Every choice you make either strengthens or weakens it. Knowing what destroys attraction is just as vital as knowing what creates it. And once you've mastered both, you're ready to bring everything together into a single, natural flow. The mindset that will make you magnetic without effort. By now, you've seen that seduction is not a trick, not a single move, but a way of moving through the world. Each phase is a step in a longer dance, one that can't be rushed or forced without losing its rhythm. The most powerful seducers don't simply follow a checklist, they live inside the art. The real secret is shifting your focus from the end goal to the process itself. If you approach someone with nothing but the thought of winning them, you'll come across as mechanical, even hollow. But when you genuinely enjoy the interplay, the subtle observations, the small adjustments, the way a single glance can shift the atmosphere between you, your presence becomes more natural and magnetic. Think of yourself as an artist, and the canvas is human emotion. Every interaction is a chance to create something memorable, something that will linger in the other person's mind long after the moment ends. When you approach it this way, you stop seeing people as puzzles to solve and start seeing them as worlds to explore. Observation becomes your greatest tool. You learn to watch not just what someone says, but what they don't. The pauses, the small hesitations, the subjects they return to when they're comfortable. These reveal far more than surface conversation ever could. You notice what lights them up, what calms them, what leaves them thoughtful or restless. The better you know the patterns of their inner world, the more precisely you can become the missing piece they didn't know they were looking for. Timing is the thread that ties everything together. Move too quickly, and you create resistance. Too slowly, and the spark cools. You learn to sense the shifts, when they lean in for more, when they need space, when to surprise them, and when to leave them wondering. It's a balance of presence and absence, closeness and distance, that keeps them just slightly off-center, always wanting to step closer. And even when you reach your goal, the work doesn't end. Seduction is not a single event, it's a living thing. It grows or withers depending on how you tend to it. The most captivating people never stop evolving. They keep learning, surprising, and reinventing themselves so that the person beside them never feels they've seen everything there is to see. When you live this way, you stop chasing validation. Instead, you create experiences that people treasure long after you're gone. You become not just someone they once knew, but a turning point. The person who made them feel more alive, more desired, more awake to what life could be. That is the kind of presence that lingers in memory and reshapes how they see the world. From this moment forward, every interaction is an opportunity. Every conversation, every glance, every pause is a brushstroke in the picture you're painting. Step into that role with confidence, knowing that your influence is not about taking something from others, but about awakening something within them. When you master that, you'll find that the real victory isn't in possession, it's in transformation. You won't just be remembered, you will be unforgettable. Thank you for watching. If you found value here, please like, subscribe, and share this video with others.